Hi guys, welcome to another Kickin' It with Karan episode. Today we have Anthony from NeuralMed. Hi Anthony, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate the time.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you're an interesting startup. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what your startup does?
Perfect. So NeuralMed is a startup that was founded in 2018 by myself and my co-founder, who's a radiologist who happens to have a PhD in artificial intelligence for healthcare. So kind of a
Wow,
weird person there.
it's like a
Yeah,
unicorn.
I know. And we met while working in healthcare. And then we started looking for solutions in the group we were in. It was a radiology group here in São Paulo, Brazil. We're headquartered in São Paulo, Brazil. And we met, we started talking, and then we noticed that there was a huge opportunity specifically looking at using AI to increase and better the healthcare workflow as a whole. So in 2018, we created a spin-off from that company, complete separate startup, named it NeuralMed, and started creating solutions. We started focusing on chest X-ray in 2018, which obviously in 2020 became extremely important given the pandemic. But our main goal has always been to help with triage and decision-making process in the healthcare system as a whole. So not just radiology. Our most mature product is the chest X-ray, and it's been used in a lot of hospitals here in Brazil, especially now during COVID. But we also have products analyzing EKGs and ECG exams. We've also had products using NLP to extract information from unstructured text in medical reports. So we really want to be a whole healthcare solution. I mean, we like to say we're a health tech and not a health tech, given our origins, that we're actually a healthcare company before anything else.
Interesting. So why don't you dig into a little bit? You said NLP, which kind of sparked my interest a little bit. How do you use NLP in radiology?
Perfect. It's a great question. So most of the radiological reports are unstructured texts. They're not like people don't follow like a specific text, a specific form. Obviously, for normal exams, healthy people, those tend to be kind of the same. But healthcare is a exception science. Like it depends on finding exceptions and finding specific things. So what we do is the manager's dream, any hospital manager's dream, is that all doctors write in structured reports, and doctors want to write exactly what they want to write, which makes sense. They're the ones facing the patient. So we decided, why don't we create a solution where we can make the minimal change to their workflow, so zero change to regular clinical workflow, and seamlessly just analyze the data and create structured reports from that. So we use name entity recognition and sentiment analysis, phrase by phrase inside a medical report, understand what that sentence means and what's the conclusion, and with that understand what the report would conclude. So we'll be able to extract structured data from unstructured reports. That's how we use it in radiology.
That's pretty incredible. So a lot of this sentiment analysis means you have to build a lot of models, right?
Yeah.
And those models use a lot of infrastructure because a lot of this stuff is computationally intensive. So what's your infrastructure story? How you build? What are some of the services that you use? How does the infrastructure component play into the part?
All right, perfect. So we do a mix. So obviously we use a lot of cloud, as do most people. We do have a lot of on-prem as well, basically for very, very long studies or stuff that we want to have a little bit more flexibility with. And also a couple of hospitals, since we work with data, some hospitals aren't really happy with the cloud. They're not comfortable yet, as much, even though we're completely compliant with all data privacy laws. No identifiable data is on our servers at any time on cloud servers, but still there's a lot of things that we have to do on premises. So we have a mix of on-premise GPU servers and cloud GPU servers. And then we use specific GPUs depending on what we're using. If we're using images, we use the Titans or the new A100 that Oracle has on their cloud services with TensorFlow, Keras, all these tools. And then if we're using for text, we use RNNs or recurring neural networks. And then those require less powerful GPUs. So we tend to balance it out that way.
So you mentioned something interesting in regards to sort of like the inertia for a lot of medical professionals to not trust the cloud. Can you talk a little bit about that more? Do you think that's just maybe a geographic thing, or do you think that's more of just sort of the general medical community?
So I think it's a mix. I think Brazil is always a couple of years following United States and other high techly oriented countries. But there's a lot of just healthcare as a whole is a very conservative sector, and they have to be. I mean, we're dealing with people's lives, so they don't want to be taking chances. They don't want to be on the extreme cutting edge. They want to do things that have been already proven. So they need a little bit of time to get used to the idea of cloud computing as a whole. And it kind of follows directly with AI. So if you're talking to a hospital who is willing to integrate AI into their workflow, they're more likely
to do cloud. Right.
To do cloud.
Actually, that brings me to an interesting point. So you mentioned obviously the reluctance to go to the cloud, but is that primarily based on security, or is it also other things like potentially the results could be different if they were run on the cloud versus, you know, the sort of the...
No, it's mostly due to security fears and latency. So a lot of times they're like, oh, this is going to take extra couple of seconds, and we don't have that time, or the physician doesn't want to wait for an extra click. So it's just a learning curve mostly. I think it's just going to change slowly. But security is definitely one of the big
patient data, right?
Patient data, yeah. Everyone's really, especially now with the new privacy laws, everyone's kind of like trying to figure out where they stand with this. So saying no is always easier, right?
Interesting, yeah. Because I mean, it's interesting that, you know, AI has made sort of such strides in the medical space, but cloud necessarily hasn't alongside it. And, you know, the best sort of inhibitor of, you know, AI is really running it in the cloud, because you need a lot of, you know, horsepower essentially, right? So are you going to go beyond radiology as well? Is there sort of...
Yeah, of course. So radiology was low-hanging fruit for us because my co-founder is a radiologist. We were working in a radiology company, but we have a very global view of healthcare. So ECGs, EKGs, those are already in the cardiology side of things. We see emergency room triage as a very, very important side. So anything that involves that, and NLP in the same way. So all those notes that the nursing staff takes when they're admitting you, if you're short of breath or you look pale or all that's very valuable for a doctor. So you can use all that NLP to bring all the important information in front of the physician and make him and help him make the better decision possible. So I think that's where AI is going to fit into the whole solution. It's going to just empower radiologists and physicians in general to make the best decisions, make sure they're getting the whole picture of that patient. And I think on the security side, that's just going to change a lot, because slowly they're noticing that just because it's on-prem doesn't mean it's secure. So this is changing. We've seen a lot. I mean, with a couple of calls we've had with Oracle clients, being able to have the Oracle Cloud Integrator on a machine on their side, and then having that control all the data anonymization and sending it to us has been very comforting for a lot of the clients.
What does kind of the VC space look like in Brazil, or do you really have to kind of venture out to really get funding? And
so the VC space in Brazil is growing a lot. It's finally maturing. So I've been an entrepreneur since digital entrepreneur since 2012 in Brazil, and an angel investor in a lot of companies, both small and global. So I've been seeing this curve change a lot. I had a startup operator back in the day there in Brazil when no one had any idea what that was. So we've seen it changing a lot. It's finally, I think, at a point where you have mature and qualified investors that understand new businesses, not just copycat businesses, which was what Brazilian VCs were focusing on. This works in the United States, this works in Israel, let's just do this here in Brazil. It's slowly changing. They're trusting the entrepreneurs. And you're having entrepreneurs that are going through their second, third, fourth company, which makes the VC space more comfortable because they're looking at entrepreneurs that know where they're going. But it's still a lot dependent on the US for fiscal reasons. And when you want to grow, you're gonna have to balance your VC, your cap table with Brazilian VCs and global VCs, be it US or Israel or Europe or wherever they're based.
Got it. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for joining us for a couple of minutes of your time. I do appreciate it, and all the craziness going on around the world. So this was awesome to learn a little bit more about NeuralMed. And again, thank you for your time. And the audience out there, will catch you next time on another episode. Bye-bye.
Perfect. Thank you so much.